It's the Coast Best Mix, 7AD and 7BU, all the way across the northwest coast. It's Nathan with you, and as always, being 20 past 11 on a Thursday, we are joined by the mighty Craig Heppel of Ulverston Real Estate.
Mighty, you practicing these introductions?
No, look, I'm a kind of guy who's very enthusiastic about things.
You are.
And
it rubs off.
I want to over praise almost everything because I think it's just so brilliant. And so that means my vocabulary of words to just overpraise things is pretty extensive.
Well, mate, you get me pumped right from the get-go.
Fantastic.
So today we're pumped and we're talking about settlements. And the byline to that is let's cooperate. So from the minute you think about selling your home, the end result is getting a great price with terms that are fair, then settling the transaction. And that's what we hope for and dream of. Sometimes the process from listing to actually selling is not all smooth sailing. There are many players in the game: the sellers, the buyers, the agents, lawyers, lenders, valuers, building inspectors, Eddie expert friends and relatives. There's a whole team. Our job as agents, once a deal's done and a contract signed off, is to keep the sellers and buyers on track whilst coordinating the other players to make sure the deal gets over the line. That is, the property settles. Firstly, I want to say this. Even if there may have been some argy-bargy during negotiations or satisfying the conditions of the contract might have been like pulling teeth, or somewhere during the process the lawyer or the lender dropped the ball, as settlement day approaches, cooperation should be the number one priority so the seller can fulfil their obligations to leave the home in good condition and in a timely manner, and the buyer can do the same and move in when the lawyers deem the deal to be done. Yeah. I'm always reminded that humans, even if considered professionals, can do their best to leave a sour taste or jangle nerves right up until the moment of truth, the settlement. Now, I'm going to share a story of how a settlement can go a bit haywire, but first I need everyone to hear this. If you have sold your home, your buyer has every right to carry out what's called a pre-settlement inspection to ensure they are taking possession of the home in the same condition as when they first saw it.
Right. And
Very important.
I'm assuming that's got to be relevant to this story too.
It is, somewhat, but I've put that in because I find a lot of sellers say, oh, they want to do an inspection before settlement. It's law. They are quite within their rights to do so. A buyer, that is. Yeah. So, how's about the time we had two homes settling concurrently? Not unusual, but really gets the coordination juices flowing. So buyer one had a truck loaded up from their rental property heading to buyer two's home. Buyer two had a truck loaded up from their home they just sold to buyer one, going to seller two's home, which he had vacated several days before. So two properties, three groups, right?
Right, cool, I get you. Yep.
All right. The settlements on buyer two and seller two's home were due to take place at around 2 p.m. Trucks sat outside each home waiting for the lawyers to send the smoke signal that the deals were done and the agent could release the keys, that's me, and everyone can move in. At 3 p.m, there was no word. 3:15 p.m, no word. 3:25, all hell breaks loose. Buyer one's lender had failed to present a vital document for the purchase of buyer two's home at settlement. So the lender had mucked up and they couldn't settle. Pandemonium. No settlements, and buyer one and buyer two have trucks, removalists, loaded to the hilt, but nowhere to put their stuff.
Oh, that's got to be surely one of the big nightmare situations.
Mate, I went into overdrive. So lawyers were not really communicating all that very well, and one lawyer even said that the contract had crashed. No, it hadn't. Settlement was delayed. But as soon as that word crash came in, people started losing their minds. Therefore, all buying and selling parties were either homeless or not receiving the funds due from the settlements. Settlement was going to be at least another 24 to 48 hours away to get the missing documents sorted. So, right, Craig dives into the telephone booth, pulls off the Superman suit, and I swing into action. I advise buyer 1 and 2 to get their lawyers to ask for early possession of the respective properties due to the circumstances beyond their control. I contacted seller 2, who had already vacated, and got him to agree to early possession for buyer 2 into his place, and buyer 2 to give the same permission for buyer 1 into their place. The lawyers just need to extract their digits and get letters off confirming this temporary solution. About 4:30 p.m, as nerves were fraying, the lawyers got written confirmation through so all parties could bring in the trucks, unpack, knowing that settlement would definitely take place in the next couple of days. Woohoo! It was like being back to my early days as a uniformed cop directing traffic, ensuring everyone watched and listened and didn't crash into each other. As I said, these scenarios are not common, but they can happen. And there have been sellers, along with the odd buyer, not afraid to chuck a spanner in the works right at the 11th hour. Ugh. So I'll share another couple of those stories in some future shows, but it can get interesting right up to that 11th hour.
Jeez, I can see why this would, as a career, stay so incredibly interesting over the years, because it's always a challenge.
There is never a dull moment when you are dealing with human frailties and behaviours.
Yep.
But
wow,
that's what they pay me the big bucks for.
It is. That's what they pay you the big bucks for. And I can see why. And look, because just going back to the start point of this, it's about communication.
Yep.
And that's what you foresee. You're a facilitator right up until the end moment.
Mate,
when
I'm the
everything's
hub.
Settled.
It all comes in and through me.
Yep.
And if someone's dropping the ball, I've got to pick it back up, put it in their hands and say, do this.
It's not well and good enough for you to sit back on your hands and go, well, that's not my job. That's someone else's job. They didn't do it. It's like, no.
Well, I'm the easiest one to contact, so it all comes to me.
Yep.
Lawyers, etc., lenders, they can be very hard to contact, but it'll all come to me. So I've got to have, let's say, communication open with all parties. So if you're wondering what's happening in the property market today, or have any questions about real estate matters, email me, craig@olsonrealestate.com, or call me on 0400 180 515. I'm here to help.
I'd give him a call. Why wouldn't you want to hear that voice? That reassuring voice being like, no worries, we've got this sorted.
Correct. I have said that many times. Yeah, and it's true.
Wicked. Well, as always, absolute pleasure, Craig. Thank you for your insights. And we'll be back and catch up in the not-so-distant future next week at 11:20 on A Peek Inside.
Can't wait. Thanks, mate.
7AD and 7BU.